All right, legends, welcome to this video. Today's pretty good, pretty special episode. Well, not even episode. This is like for behind the scenes sort of stuff. We got Matt on here. He and I go way back, but he actually has a company called Sales Sniper Inc. And they are a phone sales agency. Like they do phone sales, and that's what we're all about today. Is for gym owners, personal trainers to be able to get used to how going online, because everybody's going to go online. And so one of the big things is like we can get leads, but leads are no good if you can't sell them. And so Matt does it for a living. He's got a whole team of guys that do it, and he's trained people up to do it. And he's sold everything from high ticket down all the way down to normal gym memberships and everything in between there. So Matt, good to have you on, my man.
Thank you, Jimmy. It's been a little while.
It has.
Been a couple of moons.
Been a minute. So I'm just going to sort of just freestyle it here. Just want to give the guys some pointers and tips about like what you do in terms of like, it just says one of these guys is one of your employees to come to you and you're about to train them up on phone sales. What's sort of some of the stuff that you would do to get them up to speed really fast?
For sure. So I think like I train salespeople. I train my own salespeople, train other salespeople for a living, and I do sales myself. So to give some sort of context, so right now I'm selling anything from sort of 50,000 and below. That's sort of our niche is sort of anywhere between sort of 10 and 50. That's kind of where we play. We do have some other online clients that do a little bit lower, but the business started because I was really good at selling fitness over the phone. So did it for my own gym, and then got pretty good at that. And then from there, did it for another gym chain who will remain nameless, but you know who it is, Jimmy. So I did all their phone sales and did the openings of the gyms.
And Matt did mine as well. Like he did stuff for my men's only PT business as well. Yeah.
So so when I left doing the gym openings, and just to give you some context, we would do probably 200 sales in a month, all paid over the phone. So, and this is before the location was open, so they couldn't do the old, all right, I need to come down and see the place, because I was like, well, it doesn't exist. So
yeah, it's really, just an empty warehouse.
Yeah, exactly. It's getting fitted out, so you're not even allowed in unless you're wearing hard hat and boots. Like it doesn't really work. So we had to get them. We used to sell them for $250. My record was 167 paid in full in 19 days. And that was all just over the phone. Right. And so that sort of created a bit of a system, because I had to be very, very like economical with time and economical with words. I couldn't be having an hour and a half conversations to close somebody. It wasn't economical. So I really had to be able to just call leads and then get them sold in 30 minutes. And it was just a number of how many calls do I need to make that many conversations, how many conversations can sales. And it was worked out to, I knew every 100 dials, I'd make 2 sales. Right. So
that's good to give some people some hard data. And that was fitness game stats?
Yeah, that's all fitness. So that's just calling leads. So that's not like 100 dials doesn't mean 100 leads. It could be 25 leads that I've called 4 times that day.
And it doesn't mean 100 conversations either. It just means you dialed the phone 100 times.
Yeah. You're going to get about to give everyone a little bit of like real numbers when it comes to lead calling. So this is if you have a lead calling strategy versus a strategy where you have people booking themselves in, or you might have a combination of the two. So you might create a funnel where they book themselves into a chat, and the people who don't, you call. But you're looking at about a 12% contact rate. So from 100 dials, 12 people will pick up the phone. From the 12 people who pick up the phone, like you might be able to have genuine conversations with, say, 4 or 5 of them. And then, if you have 4 or 5 good conversations, you should be able to get 2 to 3 sales. Right. So I usually got way more than 2 from 100 dials, but it was a really good, like I knew if I did 100 dials, I did everything I could do to get 2 sales. So for me, I would try and get like 6 sales a day. That was like my target, which is pretty high target.
If we extrapolate that out, how many dials is that? 300?
Yeah, 300. So I had to use it. Back then, I didn't even use an auto dialer. I do now if I'm doing that kind of stuff. So I have an auto dialer loaded up and I can dial 4 dials a minute. So 300 actually doesn't take that long. You can do that in like, a few hours. Back then it was 8 hours a day. So I would do 8 hours a day, 6 days a week of selling. And that's how I would get that kind of result. But in saying like there are much, much, much better ways of doing it. And the more expensive you sell, the easier it is to get them through that system faster. Which doesn't really make a lot of sense to people, but selling things that are more expensive are way easier when you're in the online space than selling things that are cheap.
I love that.
And
Say that
there's
again.
a few frames for that. The more expensive, the better when it comes to online, up to a certain point, depending on your skill, depending on your sales prowess.
Okay,
Right?
so now let's talk to the gym owners, fitness peeps, about what price points you've sold for online personal training, and what was the length of the contract or the program that you're selling for that price.
So the average was around $97 a week.
There you
Right.
go.
So you'd be looking at a $2,000 commitment for 20 weeks. Right. If you paid up front, you get a discount. I would say 30% of people would pay up front. Other people would do like, okay, it's 500 down today and then a weekly payment of 40. Do you know what I mean? So you can kind of, the good thing is you can play around with it because it is online. So like you have a limited overhead. So like you can be more liquid with how you decide to do your payments because your cash flow isn't as strapped with that, $5,000 a week payment that you have to do to staff and to keep the doors open, because essentially it's a much higher profit business. And people look for the convenience of online. There's a big thing, I think, between personal trainers and online trainers. And I think personal trainers get real shirty and they think that they're really needed when in reality, all you're selling is a result. So like if I'm selling sales training, like it really doesn't matter what I tell them to do. The actual delivery is nowhere near as important as the pain that I pull out during the call and then tying that emotion to the solution. And if they look at me as a trusted advisor, it doesn't really matter what I tell them to do as long as they're confident they can get the outcome.
Because you've seen transformations where people are doing Zumba, people have done CrossFit. It's not the method of delivery, it's the end result.
And it's your ability to hold them accountable to doing it. And if you have a look at like how your business really runs, most people who run group fitness studios, most of your accountability is done by phone calls. Because you don't have enough time to meet with everybody one-on-one. So really all you're doing is training them in a group environment so they have a better chance of having better form during their sessions, right? So having better form during their sessions, yes, is advantageous, but in terms of the end result, that's got to be 5-7% of the actual end result. Like if someone's doing stuff by themselves, but they are doing it and they're doing it like somewhat correctly and they're doing the right intensity, is it really going to make, is their results going to be much worse? Probably not, because it's really your ability to hold them to what they're doing. And that's all part of a sales process and all part of because the better you sell them, the more they sell themselves, the better they are at kind of walking themselves down the pathway instead of you sort of pushing them. And I've sold for a fair few. I've sold for the most successful online personal trainers in Australia. Being like James Cant, Andrew Gosen. Those are the two most successful, I would say, online PTs, making upwards of $100,000 a week, in terms of like upfront sales and probably a recurring revenue of, 150,000 a month, 200,000 a month, something like that. And they sell 40 to 50 people a week into a $2,000 program at a sales conversion rate of around 63%. So, and they have a show. So that's not of all leads, but that's of calls booked, and they have like a 70% show up rate. So, their way of doing it is obviously fantastic. But really there's no reason why anyone can't replicate what they're doing if you find the correct niche and if you're passionate about what you do. And realistically, you can have a much smaller business, and make, 20 grand a month with very minimal overhead.
That's what we're talking about here. This is the paradigm shift. And I think you've nailed it you've said it a couple of times through it, is this is what I've been telling everybody, is you got to understand the concept of, you used to delivering in-person group training. Well, guess what? That business is dead now. You don't have that. You're no longer in that business. You have a new business now. You're in online accountability. That's what you're in.
Yeah, which is like, and that coaching model has been around for ages. And, most personal trainers, the personal trainer that they would get would be an online PT because they'd want to go to the best. So they'd go to someone like a Eugene or a Luke Lehman or someone to be their online fitness coach because they're a specialist in what they do. And they realize that they want to go to that person for that specialty. And it doesn't matter if they're in Germany or the US or Australia. They want that in particular. Like they're, a good PT is probably not going to go on the road to fitness first and sign up for a PT if they want one. They're going to seek out the professional. And the general population is not too much different. It's just they do less seeking out. but they're presented in a way where it makes sense. And also like your scalability is like infinite compared to the 20 to 30,000 people that you can target in your local area on Facebook. You can have a much broader strategy, and you can go after markets that are more starving, and you can go after traditionally very easy markets like rural Australia, where they're really cheap marketing, like, as you know, right?
Yeah. But we're actually, just to give you a little insight, we're actually doing local area online marketing for our guys at this point in time, because the local area marketing right now is cheap. Like,
yeah,
everyone's pulled their marketing money off of Facebook. And this is like 1987 marketing prices, getting leads for like $3, $4. And that's calendar bookings.
yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at like the data that, like I was talking to Kim Barrett yesterday, who you know, from Your Social Voice, and he sort of took me through, and he was like, yeah, man, there's like a 40% uptake in Facebook use, a 30% uptake in Instagram use, and a 30 or 40% reduction in advertising cost. So because the marketplace is just screaming out for people, everyone's at home and people want shit to do, which is the reason my wife is like launching her online fitness program in like a day. Do you know what I mean? So like we're launching ads, and I think it's maybe a day or 2 days, something like that, because we see the opportunity and I know how to sell it. So we're going to sell that for probably $1,200 for 16 weeks. And we'll probably make 5-6 sales a week, and probably spend $200 to $300 a week in marketing. That's pretty straightforward. That's $6,000 a week in sales. You know,
cool. So that's really cool, because there's different ways to package up your programs and stuff like that. And we're going to talk about that, but then I'd love to get into like some sales tactical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So packaging things up, what's the sort of like, for a fit pro that's never done it, what's the sort of a price point where they could start at?
I think probably it really depends, like, because you want to make sure that you definitely mitigate your ad spend. And it really depends. So like if you're really bad at sales and you're going to go, okay, I'm going to close 1 in 10, right? Like that would be worst case scenario, because I believe that 10% of people are never going to buy and 10% of people are always going to buy, right? So you should, if you picked up the phone, 10 people and went, hey, do you want to do it? One of them say yes, right? Like, you know, so yeah, so if you look at like a 1 in 10, and let's say you get a hold of 50% of your leads.
And let's just say, for easy mathematics, leads are $10 each.
$10, right? So you're spending $200 to get one client, which is what you spend in your gym, right? Which is why you do a $200 20-day challenge, right? To mitigate your lead costs, right? They're having self-liquidating marketing. There's no reason why you can't like just match what you're already spending in the gym. You can do that, or you can have them pay up front. But like, you know, I would say 12 weeks for $50 a week, depending on the level of, and it's really going to depend on what you're going to give them, because if you're just going to do group training, it's the same, then just do $50 a week. But if you're going to do a one-on-one call that goes for half an hour once a week, charge that out at the same rate that you would for PT. If you charge $60 a session plus the get group, it's $100 a week.
I love
you know
it.
What I mean? And
that's
it's
great.
not going to be any, there's no difference to selling it. I think that's the problem. Like, it doesn't matter what you're selling it's how you sell it. Because like at the end of the day, if the person has the confidence that it's going to work, like if I tell you to knit in the corner for 45 minutes a day, and then at the end of 12 weeks, you're going to be fucking shredded like Aquaman. Like, who gives a fuck? Like, if you're confident it'll work. Yeah, exactly. So, and like now it's a benefit to be online. Like it's not going to be looked at as a negative. Like, oh, you know, I really just want to go in there. Nobody fucking wants to go in there anyway. So, and that's going to be the case. And like, I think, you know, most gyms the fitness industry in the next will never, ever be the same.
No.
And so if you can learn how to capitalize now, because a lot of gyms are going to be folding, a lot of PTs are going to be folding, and most of them will not make the leap to going online because of a risk mitigation strategy. And there's going to be a massive reduction in the amount of actual trainers, both
which is
like just
good
in the
for
world.
the people that still stay.
Exactly. And that's the same for any industry, same for plumbers, same, like whatever it is, whoever can weather the storm are going to come out on top. I mean, there's huge government incentive for everything. So right now, if you like whatever you consider an asset, whether it be a course or sales training or fitness training or marketing, you know, so like investing in a marketing coach like Jimmy, like that's going to be considered an asset by the government, and you can write that off in your BAS for the next 9 months. So like there is tremendous opportunity right now out there for people to invest in their business. Now is a good time if you were smart enough to have some cash reserve.
Yeah, that's for another conversation. That one there. Exactly. But right, okay. So let's say this: they're going good. So the first sale you've got to do is you've got to sell your current in-gym clients onto online. That's the first sale you got to make, because that's like called like retaining or stopping the bleeding. You've got to stop the losses. And the way you do that is by quickly, if you haven't already, you should have by now shifted your current clients online. Even if you didn't know what the hell you're doing, you should have made up something and just got them on there to retain them, and then deliver at the best of what you know how, and then fix it up as you go along. Like always.
I think the key is to not get bogged down in the semantics of having your program perfect, because you can figure it out, right? Like PT, like you do not need to have 16 weeks of videoed content professionally edited before you launch this thing. Like if you have an idea of what you want to do, just launch it, sell it, and then fucking figure it out.
That's what we've been saying in the modules prior to this. It's just like, just go, and all you need to be is one day ahead of it. That's all you need to be, is maximum
exactly
one
right.
day. And if you've got your first wave of people come through, which is your current clients, just you do your live stuff, and then you're doing one-to-one accountability calls like me and Matt are doing right now on Zoom. You can do that instead of seeing people in person. That's where you adjust their diet and whatever else. And then the live stream stuff then becomes your pre-recorded stuff. So you kind of like, it's like a 2-for-1. You get a double benefit. It's called repurposing your content. And so you don't need to have it all, as he said, you don't need to have it all recorded. But let's just go. So, okay, what's the sell? What do you suggest to get people confident, first and foremost, about the confidence in knowing that there's value in the online stuff to sell it to their current clients?
I think for your current clients, you definitely want to offer a discount, because it is a change in service. And really everyone that you get to come in, like that's just, it's bonus. It's like, it's free. It's essentially free money, right? So you can bring them in, so you can go, hey, listen, I usually charge this much. We're going to charge this much for online service. This is what it's going to be. But I would start the conversation by talking to them about like where it is they are now and where they want to go, and sort of start the sales process over again from scratch, and don't make any assumptions. The more assumptions you make, the more you'll fuck it up. Be hyper curious. That's sort of the best. There's a great book called Socratic Selling, which is all about like the curiosity of selling, and sort of like how you really want to have a very inquisitive mind, right? So whenever anyone says anything, like you just don't understand the context that they're saying it with unless you really ask them what they mean, you know? And so someone says, oh, you know, I don't really know about this online stuff. You know, you can go, oh yeah, but it's, you know, it's great. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And you're going to interject with your solution, which is going to be your first instinct, but you have to ask them what they mean, because your solution might not have anything to do with their actual concern. It might have a big concern around the timings of it. It might be a concern about their internet. It might be, you know what I mean? It might be a concern about the efficacy of it, you know, but you jumping in with a solution is not going to help. So really understand, and like it says in number 4, is that dig for that pain, and really try and understand where they're coming from, what they're doing, and take them down a pathway where like they understand, because you just want them to keep going with the level of accountability they currently have. And you want them to understand the importance of their current goal, and then why it's important for them to keep going at it, you know, and why we can't let things like this be the reason why our health suffers. Because there's no reason this is a better time than ever to work on your health, increase your immunity, do that kind of stuff. So, you know, and they're going to be scared, and some people really are. And so it's like, just talk to them about their concerns and their fears, and then wrap that up in okay, well, you know, what's going to allow you to feel the most confident and the most certain that we can continue to get you good results over the next, you know, 3 to 6 months. And they're going to tell you, and you're going to say, well, like, tell me more about that. Why is that important? What's that there? And then you just wrap it up and say, okay, so do you feel like if I can provide a framework for that in the online space without you having to go out in the world and risk kind of, you know, some of these health issues, do you feel like that would be appropriate for us to talk about how that would work for you? And they're going to go, yes. And then they go, okay, so this is how it's going to work. And then you explain to them the framework and go, do you feel like that gives you the highest chance of certainty to be able to get your result? Yes. Okay. Do you want to be in that position? Yes. How would you like to move forward from here? Just don't ever say that last bit. How would you like to move forward? Don't use that close. That's a bit of a black belt close, right? That's the one I use, but you can fuck that up. Right. So don't just disregard the last bit.
Okay.
So it goes to this certainty. And instead of saying, how do you want to move forward from here? You'd say something like, how does that sound?
Yeah. Sound fair enough?
Yeah, exactly. Like, sound fair enough. How do you want to proceed from here? It can be perceived in a couple of different ways, and it's a very strong close. However, it can go really badly if you don't know what they're going to say next. So,
Mm.
um,
I
so
like
yeah,
that.
so
Let's just summarize that. I'll just write a few bullet points while you're talking about that and see if you can add it in just to give like a cool little bullet pointed framework. Be hyper curious. Don't make assumptions. This is with your current clients. This is probably for anybody really, but like this is the first part that we're talking about your current clients. Be hyper curious. Don't make assumptions. Ask them what they mean. So don't when you're not making assumptions, ask them what they mean by something instead of interjecting your
solution.
flavor or your perception of what you think they mean.
Yeah.
Dig for the pain. Ask them plenty of questions. So it's like more about just digging and finding out, where their headspace is at, what they want to do, and then you didn't say this in this term, but like you future pace them about the
Yeah.
goal. You're like, hey, so where's the goal where you want to be? And what was really cool, he was talking in terms of like 3 to 6 months or 6 to 12 months from here, not talking about, hey, what do you want to do tomorrow?
Yeah, essentially people have got two options, right? So you can, like, once you sort of understand sales, and you can create frameworks, right? So a framework is like the structure that you're creating a sale around, and there are multiple frameworks that you can use, right? The main framework that I use is one of self-identifying as an action taker, right? So that's the main framework that I work with. There are a couple other ones, and I can go into that, but the main one is like, so at the end of the call, the person isn't deciding whether or not they're going to do the program. The person's deciding or not whether or not they want to become the person who would do the program. Because right now, like, you're perfectly engineered to be exactly where you are, right? Like, that's you, it's me, everybody. We are, everything that we do and say and every decision we make is designed to keep us where we are, right? So like, we have an option. When we identify a problem, we either take the action required and become the person who is not engineered to be that way, or we continue to make the same choices that keep us in the same spot. And either answer is okay, right? But it's just what is best for that person at the time.
Did you give
And
the contrast? Do you kind of like give it the old, like, hey, the way I see it, you're at a fork in the road. You could
yeah,
give
you can, but you're better off. I mean, the way that I sell is very different. It's different than when I used to sell a lot of fitness, because I just used to beat people up into selling, like, and that is one tactic, right? But it doesn't work as well for online. Beating people up into buying an actual physical gym is super easy. I can sell loads of people in a very short period of time, but like, because they come into the gym, they create a habit because they've paid. So it's kind of like buying a coffee from a coffee shop. Like, if someone gave you a 10-pack, you'd create the habit of going. So that's one of the reasons people go, is because they create a habit and they create a social network within the gym. And that's why people stay at gyms, right? So, but with an online space, like, you can't beat people up into doing it because they'll just cancel their payment. Like, it's just the way it is, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be a lot more centered and a lot more focused on letting the person come to the conclusion that it is a good idea for them. Right. So you have to, like, that's why asking a lot of questions is really important, because you can't just like use the logic traps that you would try and use in a traditional fitness sale, which is like, okay, but you want to be here, but what you're saying is this, what you're doing is this doesn't add up. Get your fucking ass to the gym. Right. Which works really well. Like, it really does, because people kind of like it. They kind of expect it. With online fitness, though, there's an element that they won't be dragged to the gym. They have to do it in their backyard or whatever. Right. So you have to then become the trusted advisor. And that's the only, like, I would say, difficult part about it, even though I don't think it's any more difficult. It's just a slightly different way of thinking. But the key is to really go, like, what is your goal? And what is the gap that you see in getting there? And then from there, like, how do we walk you down that gap so that you realized what it is you need, so you can go forward and make the decision that now you want to do it.
Do you
You know what I
say
mean?
it like that? How would you give as an example of, like, you're speaking to a fitness client about coming to the conclusion on their own rather than doing the more beat up approach?
Yeah, well, it's like, it's a long process, but essentially, like, I would use a series of like different types of questions. So someone's telling me that, like, they want to lose weight, and so, okay, well, like, obviously weight loss isn't a goal, right? So you go, okay, weight loss, like, what does that mean to you? And they go, okay, I want to lose 5 kilos. And you go, okay, so 5 kilos is like, that's where you want to end up. Okay, well, tell me about that. Like, what would you be able to do at 5 kilos that you can't do now? And they tell you, and then you sort of dig, okay, so like, if we were to lose 5 kilos, like, what would you be really happy about if you lost 5 kilos. Okay, well, is there anything that you maybe would want to change if you're 5 kilos lighter? So like, you're going to try and get like the next goal, you know what I mean? Because like 5 kilos is bullshit. Like I lost 10 kilos recently and I've still got 5 kilos to lose. You know what I mean? Like it's like, it's one of those things, right? Like everyone thinks they got 5 kilos, but mate, you got 20. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's about uncovering that real why. So once you uncover the real why, there's a couple ways that you can do that depending on how much emotional intelligence you have, right? The first easiest way is just to constantly ask questions, right? So, okay, what do you mean by that? How does that mean? How does that affect you? Sort of talk to them about their situation. They're called situation questions. So really understand where they're at now. Then you've got like what's called like a problem awareness question, which is like, how is that a problem? Why is it a problem? And how long has it been a problem for? And what is that problem causing? Do you know what I mean? The other way is using what I call like tactical empathy or tactical vulnerability, right? So like if you're having a conversation with someone and they're not really opening up to the level, and you really need to get that why, because you need to get the goal and the motive, right?
That's
so that's
we
like
were talking about digging in the pain.
Yeah. So the goal is like what they want to achieve. The motive is why they want to achieve it. Right. So once you've gotten the real why, the real motive, then you have an understanding of what the consequences are of them not acting. Right. If it's in business, like you guys need to go online so that you can feed your families. You know what I mean? That's more important. Do you know what I mean? Like that's more important than making sales so I can buy an Audi. You know, like they're very different, and those things become more and more important as you go. So like the more layers that you can uncover, the more chance you have of then tying that emotion to the solution. So again, the problem is not them doing the program. The problem is them basically giving up on their dreams, essentially, right? Because like they're making an active decision to not take an action they know is best for them.
Okay, so let's just say we get to the point, we've uncovered the real why, we've uncovered the real motive. How do you move on from there?
So like you do is, so once you've uncovered that, then like you sort of want to try and take them down a pathway where it's hard to do it without like kind of role playing it, if I'm honest, because it really just kind of depends on where you are in the cycle, like as to what questions you would ask. But transitioning into a close is like sort of the hardest part of sales if you don't really understand how to do it. So like once you've gotten the goal, the motive, and you understand why, in fitness sales, I always like to pre-handle objections. So I will ask them flat out. So I build rapport, then I get the goal, then I get the motive, right? Those are the key steps that you have to get. Then I will go through a series, and it's all coming back to me now from the actual, it's been a while since I've done like a proper fitness sale, right? So a rapport, goal, motive, and I'll send you this in the chat when we're done so you can give it to them. It's like my fucking ninja fitness
like a framework,
framework, right? And then I'm going to pre-handle objections. So the objections you're going to get on every single call, right? Because fitness is great. It makes you great at selling because you get every objection in every call. You get time, think about it, money, and partner, right? Those are the 4. So you have to pre-handle those in the call. So you have to get them to say why now is the time they have to do it. You have to get them to say, you have to pre-frame them on budget. And I'll tell you how to do that in a minute. You have to pre-frame them on time, right? So like that the times work for them, and for online, it always works, which is the best part about it. And you have to pre-frame the partner stuff, right? So to pre-frame the now, it goes back to the goal and the motive. And it's a simple question of like, okay, so why is that a problem for you right now? What are the consequences of not acting now on this problem? How many times have you tried this before? Like, what have you been doing? This is a problem. So like, I'll say something really flippant, like, okay, so, you know, what scale from 1 to 10, how important is this goal? Yada, yada, yada. All right, perfect. So there's a 10 out of 10 goal for you. So like, what are you doing now? Like, what are you doing right now to achieve that goal? Like it's super important. So walk me through like your day-to-day actions that you take to achieve that.
Love it.
And they're going to be like, and then just ask them, why not? Why not? Like what's been stopping you? What's been holding you back? What are the things that are holding you back from doing something about it?
And is this, which part is this, in the pre-handle objections part, or is this still?
Yeah, this is all pre-handling objections.
Yeah.
Right. So it's all a kind of a seamless transition, right? So once you've got the goal and the motive, you can go like, okay, like this is really important to you for this reason. Scale of 1 to 10, how important? All right, perfect. So what are you doing now to achieve this goal?
The old
And
scale
then,
of 1 to 10. I love it.
yeah, and then like they kind of, and then if you want to go deeper into that, whatever number they say, you can say, why are you not a lower number?
Yes.
So
And
it's,
why
yeah,
is that? Because everyone would say, I remember this when we first learnt this strategy together.
yeah,
Someone would go, I'm a 7 out of 10 importance. And we would always go, why is it not like a 9 or a 10? And
yeah.
then,
So you want to go the opposite way.
yeah, so that
Yeah.
would tell us why.
You want to go the opposite way because it elicits thought. So then the thinking is different. So if you do it the way that you said it, then all they're thinking about is why is it not more important to them? Right? Like, oh, this should be more important. Why isn't this important to me? Fuck this. I'm not doing anything about it. Right? But the
Yeah.
other way is you're explaining why it is important to you. Okay, so you're a 7 out of 10. Okay. Why are you like a 4? And they're gonna go like, why aren't I a 4? And when you think about it, it makes no sense to do it the other way. Like it
Yeah.
makes none
It's so
whatsoever.
true. But we didn't
Which
think
is
about
why
it.
that Visa or MasterCard bullshit is stupid. Right?
Yeah,
Not
so let's get
working.
into that. Okay, let's get into that. So let's say we've gone through everything. So it's really cool. Like what we've clarified is there's sort of 3 core big segments to this. Number 1, build rapport. Number 2 is goal, motive, why. Then
Yeah.
number 3 is where you're pre-handling objections.
Yeah.
That's where you can
So
do.
just on pre-handling objections, because there's a couple of important things in there. So you really need to, like, the way that I pre-frame price is I'll ask them what their understanding of the fitness industry is. And I'll say, okay, so do you have any have you had any experience in the fitness industry? Have you ever had a personal trainer before? They say they've had a personal trainer. You then kind of want to go, okay, so you can almost make an assumption as to like they kind of understand what pricing is, but don't make the assumption as well, because it could have been a mate who did it for free, right? And I've been called out with that many times. So what I'll do is like, okay, well, like times may have changed. So or I'll ask them like, what is it that you really liked about personal training? And then they'll tell me, and I'll go, is there anything else you liked about personal training? They go, no. I go, is there anything that you would have enjoyed if it was done differently? And then like they'll then tell you like the real truth, right? About like what they enjoyed about it. It's like a 2 truths. Like, yeah, I like it. I'm in a program at the moment. He's great. I got a personal trainer. It's awesome. Oh, awesome. You got a personal trainer. Yeah. Like, what do you like about him? All right, cool. Is there anything else you like about him? Yeah. All right. Is there anything you'd change if you could?
That's great.
Oh, well, actually, yeah, he's a dipshit and I fucking hate him. Oh, okay. Like that's how you sell people who are already doing something else, right?
So good.
And then okay, so I'll say, okay, so there's 3 main styles of training. And again, you just insert whatever fucking order you want and you insert whatever it is you're selling, you can change this around. But I'll say we're doing online personal training, right? So I go, okay, so there are 3 main types. There's like boot camp, right? There's online PT and there's one-on-one personal training. Those are like your 3 main types of fitness. I go, okay, so boot camp's great. It's, it's like, $30-$40 a week. So it's not like super expensive, but it's like 60 people training in a park. Right now it's not really appropriate. So those have all shut down, but it's fun, great for fun and fitness. The personal training, like the one-on-one stuff, again, it's kind of been shut down for the time being, but it's going to come back soon. And it's great. It's like, it's $80 to $100 a session, super hyper personalized. You're seeing someone face-to-face, one-on-one, loads of accountability. But for a lot of people, it's just kind of like outside of the realms of possibility to see a PT 3 times a week and pay $250 a week. So like just that gives you some context as to why we do it the way that we do it. So we do online personal training. How that works is yada, yada, yada. Now you don't say the price, but you've now given them a context for them to feed off. So they know it's more than 40 and less than 250. Right. So you've pre-framed the value of what you do against the things that they know, because they might not know. So the worst thing you can do is have someone be surprised at a price. Right. So that's how you pre-frame the value, and you can see, so you does that make sense to you? Do you see how that could possibly be the most effective use of your time if you could do it this way? Like, yeah, sweet. And you go, all right, perfect. And then you move on. You know what I mean?
Cool. So we pre-handled the budget. What else have we pre-handled?
The why now is probably the easiest one, because you should have got that in the motive. You know what I mean? And then you've got the partner.
Time. Yeah.
And then you've got the partner. The partner one is like, you want to ask the question. So you single, you married, yada, yada, yada. Like, tell me a little bit about yourself. And you would have got that in the rapport section.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to kind of do a bit of digging in there and figure everything out and go, okay, so, we find a lot of people, obviously people want to lose weight, they're, you're married. Does your partner know that we're on this call today? And they're like, yeah, okay, for sure. And okay. And like, what's that dynamic like? Because I understand that, there's all different types of relationships. And so I'd like to really understand, like, what's the dynamic? Like, is this a decision that you guys need to make together? Is this a decision that you need to make by yourself? Is it going to be supportive? Because it can change how we decide to move forward. And I just want to make sure that, this is something that you can move forward with. If it is potentially the best idea for you to get you your goal, right? You always want to try and be as neutral as fuck, like really neutral. So don't say when this is the best thing for you, do it, right? No, it seems to make sense, right? But the more neutral you are in how you speak, the less sales pressure you'll put on someone, the less resistance they'll give you, the more open they'll be.
Yeah.
Right.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I feel like most of the time when you asking for money, it should just almost be like how you're talking to a mate. It's
exactly.
Easy. Like, hey mate, give me $20. Like you don't say that, but
yeah.
It's just casual. It's casual.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and that's the partner. And then we've got the last one is
time.
So time is a really easy one for online because it's totally like irrelevant. But you can say, oh, this is like 30 minutes a day. Is that reasonable? Like, how much time have you set aside? You can even say things like, how much, given that this is so important to you, have you actually got a budget set aside for achieving this goal? You can use that one. That one actually goes down really well. You can also say the same with time. If you've got time set aside to achieve this goal. And then, like, what do you think is a reasonable amount of time given the importance of this goal for you to achieve it? And they'll go like, oh, I hadn't really thought about it. And you're like, well, it's like, 3 hours a week. Is that reasonable? Or I'll start going over. I'll go, is like 10% of your week reasonable? Yeah. Okay. Well, I only want 4. So are you happy with that? Yeah.
It's like the same what you do with the price, almost anchoring higher, then bringing it down.
Yeah. And then it's just a case of like, once you've kind of, and then you would go, okay, well, if it's appropriate now, like, do you feel like it would be a good idea for me to tell you like how the program actually works and what I think it can do for you? And then like, that's like, it's getting permission to kind of like go further. And then just tell them about the features and the benefits. Try and tie it back to them as much as possible. Try not to go into much detail at all. Try and keep this like, the close should be 5 minutes at the end.
Like telling them about
your offer.
I reckon this is what I recommend to my guys is to say that telling them about the program should be like 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like there's no point. They're going to forget it. It's irrelevant anyway. It's all about getting people to the goal. And then like the way that I always just say is like, does that program, the way that I've framed that out for you, does that make sense to you? They're like, yes. And they go, okay. Does that seem like it could potentially get you to where you want to go? Okay, perfect. And then you can be like, so, like, what would you like to do from here? Is there any more information that you need from me? And then they'll ask you about price.
Yeah.
And they'll ask you about price. Then you say, okay, well, this is what it's going to be. And then I always start with the higher. So I'll start with like the total investment because I want them to ask me for a payment plan. So it's the old selling downhill, you know what I mean? So it's going to be a $750. So the program goes for 16 weeks and it's $1,200. Kind of just let that sit there because it's fine. Like you're totally comfortable with it, and they're going to go, okay. Now the thing is, you cannot interject with anything. You just go mute, just go boop, mute it up, whatever it is you need to do, right? Because they are overcoming their own objections for you. And every time you interject, you're going to fuck it up. Like, because I have a great call that I don't know if I can send it to you, but I might be able to send it to you privately just so you can hear it, where I almost say nothing. So the guy, it's a $30,000 business coaching program. And it was about 40 minutes into the call and I went for the close. I just went, okay, man. So how would you like to proceed from here? And he just went, oh, it's expensive. I didn't say anything. I didn't say a word for like 5 minutes. And he goes, but I kind of need it right now. And then he's like, oh, but I'm so busy. And then he goes, but when am I not? And he went through like all the objection handling himself. And then he went through like 4 or 5 different objections, time, money, think about it. And then he's like, okay, let's do it. Like, and had I interjected at any stage, he would have dug in on that objection and resisted. Right? So like when you think someone is done talking, like give them 10, 15 seconds, let them finish their thought. And I guarantee you that will make you close like 20% more people. Because if someone's going, it's not the right time right now. And then if their next thought is, but I really need it right now. Right. But you interject, you stop them from finishing their thought. And I know it really does. People just don't want to do what they're told. Right. So the more you tell them, like the less they'll want to do it. Everyone's had an overweight client. People do not lose weight until they actively make the decision that they are no longer overweight in their head. Right? So it's not until they have the habits of a fit and healthy person that they lose weight. And so like you have to understand everything in their head is pulling them towards inaction. Right? So like there's an internal tension in there that they really want to do it, but they're scared and there's stuff like that. So let them play that out and then ask questions. I don't know if now is the right time. What about now isn't right for you? Tell me about that. What is it? What is that? Okay, well, like when do you think will be the right time? And just like really ask questions and go, okay, it's really expensive. And go, okay, well, and during that sort of like rapport building phase, I'll try and get out of them things like, do they smoke? Do they drink? Do they go out? Do they go to restaurants? Right. So like I'll try and gather a lot of information about them. And that will then, what's that?
Why? Like, I know why, but
yeah, it's to pre-handle all the price objections that you get.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so like you go, okay, well, people who eat macas and stuff like that, people who smoke, like if someone smokes, you should sign 90% of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, just kind of thinking about stuff. But I'll send you a script which lays it out a bit more like cohesively. I've got like a fitness sales, like a bang, 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 bang. Like this is what you do. It's not a script, it's a framework, because I find frameworks easier to use because the script you have to memorize. A framework you just have to know. Like, so if you look over here, like this right here is my framework. Right?
Oh yeah.
Right. This is for like a really, really high-end, super emotional like sale. Right. So like it's not a high-end fitness sale. It definitely could be, but it's a very in-depth way of doing things. It takes a lot of time to learn how to do it properly. Otherwise,
but I like that because this is another good thing you've touched on is you said you use frameworks, not scripts, because you can get lost reading. If it's too if you saw Matt's thing, it was like not even an A4 page. It was like
no, those are flashcards.
Yeah.
So there's each step in the process. So it's like it's different types of questions. That's all it is. And so then it's examples of those questions, right? Because my entire selling method is based upon questioning.
That's how everybody should sell, right?
Like it's hyper inquisitive. So it's just different types of questions that I use at different times to connect different parts of the sale. Like I've got commitment questions just before you do a close and just all that kind of stuff.
Mate, that's awesome. So to recap some of those last points, we've gone through all the pre-handling objections with time, why now is the time, pre-frame the budget with all your ways that you've outlined there, with anchoring the 2 points of talking about group PT, one-on-one, and the time obviously is almost irrelevant because they're online, which they can do at any time that they've got free. Yeah. And then the partner stuff, which as well. And then one key thing was really cool was like, be neutral.
Yeah, that's key, man. Like that's like it's a very like high level sales tactic, being as neutral as possible. The more neutral you'll be and the less assumptions you make about the person, the better. And so if someone tells you they want to lose weight, just ask them why. Someone tells you they want to lose 5 kilos. Why 5 kilos? Why not 25? Why not 2? So just be like, the best thing you can do is be inquisitive and like pretend that like it's super difficult to do and I'm not very good at it, but try to be unemotionally attached to the outcome of the call.
Yeah.
Right?
And you hear that, guys? He does this for a living and he's been doing it for years and years for his own businesses, for gyms and for other people's businesses as now with his agency. And he still gets attached to the sale, but he probably gets over it a lot quicker.
Yeah, like I'm working on it specifically at the moment. That's like the main shit that I'm doing is about. And that's why like I'm learning, like I'm focusing on the framework of them making a choice of who they want to be. Because like if that person just chooses to be who they are, like, I mean, fuck, like what can I do for you? You know what I mean? So, and that makes it like less emotional, I suppose, on my end, because the person's just making a life choice. I don't have to agree with it, but I don't have to be angry
I
about it.
like that, because the neutral piece about like not being attached to the outcome of if it's a sale or not a sale. Look, we all get that. If you don't close a deal, you might walk away and be like, fuck, but crack on. You don't want to then not continue making calls, let that ruin your whole day or your whole week. You don't want to spiral. You're allowed to like be pissed off for 30 seconds. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. And like, just be aware that like, you know, one, you can't sell everybody, so don't be mad if you can't. And two, like it affects them far more than it affects you. You know what I mean? Like it really does. I mean, like you're fit, you're healthy. There's plenty of more leads out there. There really are. And you'll see that when you start doing it. Like you'll probably get more leads for online than what you will in person. And it's just like there's plenty of fish in the sea type thing. You know what I mean? And,
I like it. And the last piece about the close was really cool, was like you go up there and you present first and foremost the full total value. So you got to know what your total value of your package is. Don't sell on like sessions or whatever. Like sell the whole total package. If it's a 12-week thing, figure out what it is, present the price, and then shut the hell up.
Yeah, man. That's the biggest thing. Just be quiet. Like the more quiet you are, the better. And then when they come in with an objection, ask them why that's an objection. You know, because like I think that if there's a key phrase that I can give you, which will like you'll sell a lot of people with this one thing.
Ooh, give it up.
Right? Is like, okay, well, okay, like always, whenever someone gives you an objection, go, okay, that's not a problem. Just first of all, say that right straight away, and then go. I'm just trying to figure out doing a bit of mental gymnastics. How do I transition this for you? So I'd go, okay, that's not a problem. And I'm going to go, like you probably established earlier on in the call that their mindset is a bit of an issue, right? Like in the why and the motive and why they're not doing things. And okay, you go, okay, so like, let me ask you a question. Whenever I'm going to challenge someone, I'll always say, do you mind if I challenge you, or can I ask you a question? Right? So I'm getting acceptance that I'm allowed to do it, right? Which makes people take it on board far better than just going like, this is your problem, right? Which if any of you have wives, like, you know, that just doesn't go down well. Right? So you go like, let me ask you a question. Do you feel like your decisions that you've made have shaped where you are at the moment? You go, yeah. And you go, okay, do you feel like your mindset and I guess how you view this stuff is shaping your decisions? Go, yeah. I go, so all your decisions and your mindset are causing you to be in a situation that you are not entirely happy with. Yes. Do you want to continually allow that to be the case? And then I'll say like, because right now you're perfectly designed to be exactly where you are, and that's okay. So am I. But if you're not happy with that situation, then you have a choice, because if you constantly make decisions based off where you are, it's very difficult to be anywhere else. So if we want to have a different outcome, we need to give ourselves a different perspective and start acting as if we're already there.
And we know that in the fitness game.
Yeah.
We know
and so, yeah. And then it's just like, do you want to change your perspective? Do you want to start making decisions differently to give you the best opportunity to get a different outcome?
And see how you're saying it real neutral? Like, I like that, man. You're even neutral right there. You're just like, it's almost like matter of fact and just being like, not like what some people.
You can't be judgy. Doesn't work.
Selling hot though as well. You're not overhyping things either.
Yeah. I talk real when you get to like a really important part, like a message that you want to go like really importantly into, your tone and temperature of your voice is really important. Like pausing at specific points. I kind of probably do it naturally by now. Like I don't think about it, but when you pause, the next thing you say sounds really fucking important, right? like it does, because it has like the context of thought, right? So you're not just rattling shit off the top of your mouth, the top of your head. Like you're really thinking about what you're saying. And like when people talk, don't interrupt them, and say yes or okay every 12 to 15 seconds. Right?
Just so they know you're listening.
Yeah, and just try to turn off the dialogue inside your head, which is where that inquisitive things come from. Like if you're trying to formulate your next thought, if you're just thinking about your response to what they're saying, it's really difficult to actually understand what they're saying. And fitness is so emotional, like that, like if people feel like they're being heard by you and really understood, they're almost always going to buy. Like
So
that's
true.
really the case. Yeah.
It's so true. So you mentioned, and I've seen you talk about this quite a lot on your social media as well, is you hate the closed Visa or MasterCard. Why is that?
I don't like it's not one. It's not like no moron has ever gone, oh, I guess I only have two choices. You know what I mean? Like, how fucking stupid do you think people are? You
Yeah.
know? Hey mate, so it's yeah, bro, you're gonna lose fucking 10 kilos in 28 days, fucking guaranteed. You get your money back, fucking Visa or MasterCard, dude. Like, no, like the people who use
I'm laughing because that's
just
what we
stupid.
used to do. I'm laughing.
Yeah, and like it works, but it works in spite of it. It doesn't work because of it. Right? So like you create a framework beforehand and it works. It really doesn't, your clothes can fuck things up for sure. That clothes is not going to fuck things up because like it's so like it's neutral enough. Like it's hard to explain why it's not going to fuck things up, but it's definitely not going to like invite people to want to do it. It's just a stupid clothes. I think I think it really is. It's making, that people have two choices. Like there's obviously a third, which is I don't want to fucking do it. Otherwise, like that clothes would work all the time. Right?
Yeah.
And so I think like, it's definitely like part of my clothes where like once they've said they're going to pay, I'll say, would you like to pay? Like, what method would you like to pay with? Like, I'll ask them, would you like to do Visa, MasterCard, Amex? Fucking, like, how do you want to pay? But, a real close for someone who really understands selling, and being able to sell one product doesn't make you good at sales, right? Because being able to sell any product to anyone in any environment is what makes you really good at sales. And the only way that you can do that is by understanding the reason why people act. Right. And so that takes a long time. Like I'm learning, I have a mentor, I get sales training. I pay $1,500 US for somebody to review one call, which is getting more and more expensive by the day. But that kind of call recording stuff is the reason why, like, I think it's super important to record your own calls. So you can listen back to them and understand, because if you get a price objection, you fucked up in the beginning, not at the end.
Exactly.
Right?
That's the key with like anything. If you get any sort of objection, I have to think about it or whatever, you stuffed it up well before that point.
Yeah. And so that's why like that whole double buying close thing is kind of stupid, because like a close should just be very, very straightforward. Like, is this the choice that you want to make? You know what I mean? And like the framework behind it is what, a close is 5 minutes. Like it really is.
Yeah.
It's a very short part of the thing. The beginning of the piece is the reason why people buy. And it's the reason why you become a trusted advisor. And
sorry to interject. We do need to wrap this up in a second, but someone's going to be probably asked the question, how do we record our calls?
There's a bunch of apps that you can use, or you can get a CRM like Close.io that I recommend everybody get if you actually want to. Like, it's super cheap and you can record your calls. It's like $100 a month US if you want to record your calls. You can get a couple of different phone numbers and auto dialer, like all in one. You can have your email sequences on it, like and you can integrate it with all your Schedule Onces, with Zapier, with your Google Sheets. Yada yada yada. Cool. So like it's an easy way to do it, and it gives you the ability to record calls. But if not, you can just download apps on Android or iOS that'll just record.
Most of them are free, aren't they? Or like pretty cheap?
Oh yeah, I think they're like $1.49 a month type thing to record your calls. The ones on iOS are way better than the ones on Android. But yeah, man. But Close.io is like, it's a good way to go if you want to have like one place to go for a pretty cheap CRM that gives you a dialing software for relatively cheap. If you don't want to record your calls, it's like $20 a month. So,
cool.
Yeah, it's cheap, but I think it's worth the extra, $100 a month or something like that to get this stuff going. Even if you, when you reopen your gym, still get it, because like you can auto dial. So instead of one dial per minute, you get 4. So you can get 4 times the sales in the same period of time.
Yeah, 4 times the output. And so any closing thoughts on phone sales in general for these guys?
Like phone selling is like, I don't know why people don't think you can do it. I had like a fitness business coach come up to me the other day. I won't say his name. And he was like, hey man, I'm thinking about having an agency where I sell fitness over the phone. I was like, okay. He's like, how would that go? I was like, well, it goes fine. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, I did it for years. I was like, that was my whole business.
Yeah.
Like a long time. And he's like, oh, really? I was like, yeah. And he's like, people will buy over the phone. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, yes, of course they buy over the phone. I was like, it's going to be your job and you don't even know that. Like, people will buy over the phone. It's so rare that I have someone go, buy over the phone? What do you mean? I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Like, no,
if you do your job
fine.
right, you do it well. And I like to always think of this, like, have you bought something over the phone? Whoever's watching this, I know I have. I've paid for things like mentorship programs and, agencies and stuff that are in the couple of thousands, if not more. And that's all through phone calls because they're usually international.
Yeah, like, it's just not a big deal. Like, I mean, and just don't let somebody say, send me the payment link. They're not going to do it. Just keep them on the phone, right? Just ask a few more questions, figure it out, ask for the sale again. They're lying to you.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's a big difference between here and Europe. Europe, if someone says that, they do it every time.
Really?
Yeah,
Send the payment link?
Yeah, they just pay it.
Yeah, there you go.
They said yes, they're going to do it. It's not like they're not as jaded as over here. But yeah, like, just get the phone. It's like, yeah, the reason why we do it this way, if someone's worried about security, just be like, okay, well, we use Stripe or whatever. So, like, that's linked to your bank. So if you ever have any dramas about it, you don't like the charge, you can query it. You'll get sent a payment receipt straight away. It's pretty straightforward. This is how. And if the more casually you are about it, it's not going to be a big deal because people buy their shit on credit card online all the time. There's no difference between buying something online and buying something in person.
Exactly. One thing I like to always say is, like, this is how everybody else has done it. This is how all our clients have done it. We got over 100 clients online or whatever. And they go, oh, okay, everyone else has done it. I may as well.
Yeah, you just casual. Like, and it's the case. Like, I started selling stuff online, and it was weird at first, and I was apprehensive, and people were apprehensive because they could sense my doubt. But then, like, once you've done it a few times, it's like, oh, okay, this is easy. People don't give a shit.
Yeah,
they don't give a shit. If that were the case, I would not sell $1.2 to $1.5 million a month worth of product online exclusively from the office in my house. Right?
Sitting where you are right now.
Yeah, this is where I do it all. This is where I sit there. I sit here and I play with a packet of cards and I
play some blackjack.
Yeah, I flip cards around in my hand and I sell people and they give me their credit card over the phone. And I honestly do not remember the last time somebody like said, oh, I don't feel comfortable giving credit card over the phone. I literally don't remember the time. And I've done easy 3 million this year worth of sales.
Yeah. And it's because you handle the front end of the call before you get anywhere remotely close to the close properly.
Yeah. You're a trusted advisor. They just fucking told you their deepest, darkest secrets. And they give a fuck about their credit card. I had a call with the guy the other day and I said, have you ever told anyone that? And he goes, no, I've never said that to anyone. And I was like, okay. Like, that dude trusts me implicitly.
Yeah.
You know? So
that's awesome, man.
Do the job at the beginning and the end will be easy.
Matty,
if you want to do another one of these, I can go into more detail about stuff, but
this has been awesome so far. I think this is really cool, and I get the framework there. But I appreciate it, dude. Thank you so much.
No worries, man. All the best.
All right, man. I'll let people listening in take that advice. Phone sales is the same as any other sales. You actually this environment.
It's a bit easier, actually. It's a bit easier.
This environment being like having to be online is a good thing because it's going to make you better. It's going to make you better. Like, having a sales skill is something that will last you a lifetime. And the cool thing is you can make more sales doing this faster than having to get somebody to get in their car and drive down to come and see you. You don't have to make that double appointment where you call them up and then send them a text message with your address and hope they come and see you in a day or two.
50% no-show rate.
Yeah, 50% no-show rate. Exactly right. You're going to close more because you're going to close them on that first contact point.
Even if you don't stay online and you end up going back to your gym, I'd recommend having some sort of hybrid, obviously. But just sell it over the phone. Don't bother. It's a waste of time. There's no way I'm letting someone come down, do an in-person appointment for half an hour with a 50% no-show rate. Like, if you do the ROI on that, it's horrific.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know? So,
but anyways, guys, that's all we've got for today, Matty. Thank you so much. And guys, I'll see you all in the next training.